Good morning, people. Welcome back to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. I hope everyone is doing well on this Thursday morning. Got a massive show to bring you guys today. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. And let's get straight on into it. So on the show this morning, we're going to be talking a little bit about Antony. There has been some more updates surrounding his situation. We're also going to be talking about a new midfielder that Manchester United have been linked to for the January transfer window. Now, it's not a name that I've heard of before, to be honest, but I have done a bit of research this morning, done a bit of player profiling, so we will talk about that. We've got lots of other bits to get into. Please do get involved in the live chat, get involved in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on everything we discuss on today's show. So let's start off with this story. But let's start off with this really quickly, actually. So for anybody who has not seen yet, Manchester United will face Newcastle in the next round of the Carabao Cup. It's going to be at home, okay, which is crazy. We've played 12 games in a row in either the FA Cup or the League Cup at home. It's absolutely mad. I've seen some stat, and apparently the odds of a team getting drawn 12 times in a row was like 0.01% or something. It was like literally impossible. But anyway, we've been drawn against Newcastle, probably, other than Liverpool and Arsenal, probably the hardest team left in the competition. So people who say, oh, well, you always get the home results. We're still playing a very difficult team. When you look at who's left in the Carabao Cup, right? A lot of the other teams in there, let's be honest, would have been way easier for Manchester United, whether it was at home or away. But yeah, let me know how you're feeling about the Carabao Cup fourth round draw. Obviously, it's a repeat of the final from last year. If we look at some other clubs, Chelsea are playing Blackburn. I mean, that kind of says it all, doesn't it? West Ham against Arsenal, that's a big game, to be fair. So one of them will be going out. Everton against Burnley. Bournemouth against Liverpool. There's still quite a few other smaller teams left in it. You've got Mansfield, Port Vale. Who else? Middlesbrough, Ipswich Town. Quite a few other teams. So yeah, we're going to be playing Newcastle United at home on the week commencing the 30th of November. So in about a month's time, we'll be playing that game. Let me know how you're feeling about that. Are you worried? Do you think we'll beat Newcastle? I think at home, we'll definitely beat Newcastle, personally. I'm not particularly worried about that. I think our home record speaks for itself. So very happy with that draw. And the thing is, right, people will say, oh, well, we could have got Port Vale or Mansfield. I get all that, but in some ways it's better to beat the bigger teams earlier on, right? Get them out of the way, and then it makes it maybe slightly easier further down the line, because one of West Ham and Arsenal are going to go out. I mean, Chelsea will beat Blackburn. I imagine Arsenal will beat West Ham, but maybe not. Arsenal might lose to West Ham away from home. So yeah, we could go into the next round and it could be us, Liverpool, West Ham, Everton, and then a load of championship sides. So it could be the competition we win this season. I think that at the beginning of the season, I set out that we'd either win the FA Cup or the League Cup. Obviously, the FA Cup would be much better, but I feel like Erik ten Hag's going to really want to win the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup this season. I think he's really got it in his sights. Obviously, the big news from last night was that Manchester City lost to Newcastle. Pep Guardiola was coming out. He was accusing the referees of all sorts of things and getting all upset and saying, oh, we don't want the treble anyway. We only want the triple. And yeah, he's throwing his toys out of the pram after one loss in the Carabao Cup. So for anybody who says managers don't care about the Carabao Cup, go and watch back Pep Guardiola after the match last night against Newcastle. He was literally devastated. He was literally like a little spoiled child. So let's all laugh at Manchester City and let's hope we go on and lift the Carabao Cup for the second time in a row. Saf says Chelsea are not going to beat Blackburn. Yeah, I mean, if Chelsea lose to Blackburn, Chelsea beat Brighton last night. Chelsea's miseries are over for one night. They got one goal at home and they beat Brighton. So I assume the Chelsea fans are happy today because Chelsea are absolutely in the mud. They really are. I know this isn't a Chelsea channel, but we can always laugh at the other teams, can't we? Let's have a look. Sujo says, imagine if that was Erik ten Hag who was acting up like Pep Guardiola. If it was Erik ten Hag, right, you'd have Gabby Bonhor on TalkSport this morning saying that he needs to be put in prison. They need to have a restraining order put on him. That he's a disgrace to football. Like, there is such an agenda against Manchester United. You won't see anything about this Pep Guardiola story in those types of press today. They'll probably be saying how great a team Pep Guardiola's Man City is and they were unlucky and that blah, blah, blah. Whereas if it was Erik ten Hag, you'd have had the police probably dragging him off the pitch and put him in a prison cell. And you know what I mean? Obviously I'm being stupid, but you get what I'm saying, don't you? Let's have a look. Luke says it's been over 3 years since we last had an away draw in a cup competition. I mean, that is absolutely crazy. 3 years, 12 in a row. As I said earlier on, apparently that somebody's worked out the statistics of getting 12 home draws in a row, and it's 0.01%. Madness, absolute madness. But anyway, Manchester United play Newcastle. Confident we'll win that, and hopefully we go on to lift that trophy. I know some people think the Carabao Cup isn't good enough, but for me, a trophy is a trophy. We went 5 years without winning a trophy as Manchester United fans, didn't we? When we won the Europa League 5 years ago, I was still in my entitled Manchester United phase, right? This is me just giving you some personal information. I was still in my entitled Manchester United phase. And what I mean by that was when we won the Europa League 5 years ago, I was like, I don't even care about the Europa League, you know, I don't even want to be in this competition. And I didn't even really celebrate it. I went and watched it at the pub with my friends. The game finished and I went home and that was it. And I forgot about it. Obviously, I was a little bit happy, but I wasn't anywhere near as happy as when we won the Carabao Cup last season. I was absolutely buzzing. I really, really was. Maybe some will say that shows how the mighty have fallen, but I think it's just been a bit of a reality check being a Manchester United fan. You know, we can't assume that we're going to beat every team always now. It doesn't work like that because the competition's so difficult. And that sense of entitlement that we used to have from the Sir Alex Ferguson days has unfortunately gone. Maybe that will come back under Erik ten Hag in the next few years. I wouldn't be surprised, you know? It's kind of like how Manchester City fans are now. And that spoke volumes last night when Pep Guardiola lost that game against Newcastle. Instead of being humble and walking away from it, he was throwing his toys out the pram, blaming the referees, saying that they didn't even want the Carabao Cup. They only wanted the treble. They didn't want the, you know, and it's just like that shows just how entitled Manchester City are and how, you know, how used they are to winning. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat then. Benjamin says we need to prepare for Newcastle well. Yeah, it'll be a very difficult game. Malp says it's the 12th home tie in a row. Yes. Ricardo says Gabby Bollenhorst should just become a fisherman. Okay. Somebody says I don't mind all of the fixtures at home. Somebody says Pep Guardiola needs his milk bottle. Somebody says, so Kieran, you're saying you're humble now. Yeah, I guess so. I guess, you know, in the younger ages of being a Manchester United fan, you expected to win everything, don't you? Whereas now we're all sat here before the match against Burnley expecting to lose against Burnley, weren't we? And it just shows how the expectations have gone. Sean says, I like your show. Thank you very much, Sean. Malp says, it won't come back under the Glazers. Luma says City is out of the Carabao Cup, so we now have the chance to do the quadruple. Yeah, I mean, anything's possible, isn't it? Anyway, let's move on with the rest of the show. Let's talk about this development on the Antony situation. So obviously, we spoke last night about Antony is now back in Manchester. Apparently, he's come back after he dealt with the authorities in Brazil. He's given them, he's helped them with the investigation. And now he's returned to England, to Manchester, to assist with the Greater Manchester Police in their I don't think it's quite a case yet. I think it's more of a, you know, their initial investigation. So Antony has now returned back to England. So that's the first part of it. The second part of it, so the first alleged victim, Gabriela Cavallin, who's obviously the Brazilian one, the one that Antony put out all the WhatsApp messages for, it, blah, blah, blah. There's a story coming out this morning from Paul Hurst, who is a reporter for The Times in the UK, specifically for Manchester United and Manchester City. And he is reporting this morning that Gabrielle Cavallin, who has accused Antony of assaulting her, is expected to fly to England from Brazil this week to be interviewed by Greater Manchester Police over her claims. So from what my understanding of this situation is at this moment in time, obviously, Antony was staying in Brazil whilst the investigation was happening in Brazil. He helped the police with the investigation. He did everything he could from his side to, you know, speed things along. He's now been given permission to come back to the UK. And now he has to face the authorities in the UK, and also the alleged victim is going to come over and do interviews. So I don't know which way this story is going to go, but it looks like it is moving forward. You know, I think the fact that Antony spoke out very, very public about it, I think that did help his cause, because it was kind of the opposite to the Mason Greenwood situation, wasn't it? The Mason Greenwood situation went from 0 to 1 million within the space of 30 seconds when all of those clips went up on social media. And he never really had a chance to explain himself, or maybe he didn't want to. I don't know. I mean, we've still heard nothing from him other than that statement a couple of weeks ago. Whereas Antony, not really much went up other than a tweet of an alleged victim saying this happened, that happened. And then within, you know, 24 hours, Antony's doing interviews on TV. He's putting up all the WhatsApp messages. It's been a very different approach. And I think that maybe this will work in Antony's favour. We'll have to wait and see. But he is coming back to the UK, and so is the alleged victim. There is now only 2 alleged victims. One of them's dropped the case. So we've got 2 people who are accusing him of crimes, and then 1 has already dropped the case against him. So we'll have to wait and see what happens here. If you want my kind of prediction on the story, I don't think he'll play for Manchester United again until January. I think it might take a little bit of time, but you never know, right? You absolutely have no idea. Maybe he speaks to the police and maybe it gets sorted really, really quickly and he's back in that squad. That is obviously a possibility. I don't know how long legal things take. I don't know whether he's allowed to train with Manchester United. My guess is he wouldn't be. But let me know what you think. How do you think this story is going to go? Yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. Obviously, the one thing we do have to be very considerate about is that obviously Manchester United need to handle it in the same manner as what they did with Mason Greenwood, because if Mason Greenwood feels like the Antony situation is being handled in any way different to what his situation was, then maybe his lawyers, his agents, his managers might be like, well, we're going to sue you because you didn't handle the situation correctly. You know, it's a very, very difficult situation to get around. So Manchester United have to be very, very careful. And I reckon they'll probably take their time about it. They won't rush into it. Everyone who's just joined in the last couple of minutes, please do smash a like on the video and please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. I just dropped a link in the chat to do that. We're on the road to 20k subscribers now. We're less than 600 subscribers away from 20k. So let's see how quickly we can hit that. Please do go and subscribe if you haven't already. And let's crack on with the rest of the show. Mila says, if Mason Mount shines on the right wing, what will we do with £100 million Antony? I don't know, to be honest, mate. I don't. From a footballing perspective, there already was question marks surrounding Antony, wasn't there? A lot of fans were unsure about him. A lot of fans didn't think he was the right player to be brought in. I thought Antony had an all right season last year. I did. I thought he was okay. I don't think he was world class. I don't think he was terrible. I think he was okay. He was probably a 5 or a 6 out of 10 for me. So I'm not going to sit here and throw Antony under the bus because I did quite like him. I thought he worked very hard. I thought he tracked back. He definitely does have talent. He's still very young. And he's got that work ethic as well, which I know sounds a little bit basic, but I think that if you don't even have that as a Manchester United player, then for me, you already have lost my interest, like someone like Sancho. He's clearly got talent, but just doesn't have the work ethic. Whereas I do think that Antony is a very different player to Jadon Sancho. You can tell that he's motivated. You can tell that he wants to go out on the pitch and die for the badge and all the rest of it. But yeah, whether or not Antony will come back into the team if Mason Mount cements that right wing position, I'm not too sure, to be honest. I don't know. I will have to wait and see how Mason Mount gets on out there. I like Pellistri out there. I thought he was decent against Crystal Palace on the weekend. Obviously, Amad Diallo is going to be back soon. Apparently, he'll be back in about 8 weeks' time. So there's going to be lots of competition for that right wing place. And obviously, there's always the potential that maybe Rashford goes up there and Garnacho goes on the left. We have quite a lot of options in those wing positions. And although we're missing Sancho, Amad, Greenwood, and Antony, we're missing 4 wingers at the moment, remember. I still think we're quite strong in those positions because obviously you've got Rashford, Garnacho, Pellistri, and you've got Mason Mount. So you've got 4 people for 2 positions already, as well as Greenwood, Amad Diallo, Antony, and Sancho. So in theory, if all of our players are fit, we have 8 people who can play in that position, plus Bruno Fernandes. So 9 players who can play on the wing, and there's only 2 wing positions. Whereas if you compare that to our striker situation, right? Our striker situation, we've got Rasmus Højlund and Anthony Martial, and maybe Marcus Rashford. So we've got 3 players for 1 position versus 9 players for 2 positions on the wings. Lumen says, Kieran, will Antony now stop his Neymar-like drama on the pitch with the ball and concentrate on real football? I don't know, mate. I don't know. Until we know exactly what happens, it's pretty hard to comment on the situation. Paul says, if he does come back into the team, he's got to learn how to cross the ball. I completely agree with that. He's got to learn how to be a bit more right-footed, you know, because he doesn't use his right foot at all. It's like he's allergic to his right foot. He's so left-footed that it's just so predictable about what Antony's going to do every time he gets the ball. He cuts in and he shoots, and that's pretty much it, isn't it? He doesn't seem to know how to cross, no. Al says, why are Manchester United paying for Greenwood's Villa and translator in Spain? Maybe they intend to bring him back. I have no idea which way the Greenwood situation is going to go. Obviously, he is starting games for Getafe. He got his first assist, I think it was last night. Apparently, he's playing quite well from what I'm reading. I haven't watched any of the games, to be honest with you, but I've seen people on Twitter and stuff, and I've seen clips and all the rest of it, and people are saying that he's been pretty good for Getafe. Apparently, he sold the record number of shirts for Getafe out of any player in history in like a month. which is pretty mad. Kind of shows the level that he still is. I know that that's over in Spain and that's not here, but there clearly is still people who, want to support him. So yeah, I don't know why Manchester United are paying for his Villa and stuff. I've got no idea. Maybe it's, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they try and bring him back. But obviously the official line from Manchester United is that he's not expected to come back. That's what they're saying. But emphasise the word expected. You see other clubs, if they don't want a player, they completely cut ties with them. Like, think of João Cancelo, right? He falls out with Pep Guardiola over something minor, and they just get rid of him. The best left-back in probably the Premier League at that point in time. They just got rid of him without a blink of an eye. He's out on loan, and he's probably better than what left-back they have at the moment. Whereas Manchester United have a year-long situation being dragged through the public eye with a football player, and instead of just releasing them, like Man City did with João Cancelo, just sent him off to Barcelona, they're still keeping him on the books. They're paying most of his wages. They're paying for his villa. They're paying for all of these things. Like, it does make you question it a little bit, doesn't it? But it is what it is, isn't it? We'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. Let's move over to the story about a midfielder. Now, I think we desperately do need another midfielder, personally. I know Hannibal's coming through. I know we've got Kobe Mainoo coming back. But for me, we need to get rid of Scott McTominay and we need to get rid of Donny van de Beek and bring in somebody young. Emphasize the word young. I want somebody... I don't want like another 30-year-old. I don't want another Christian Eriksen on a free agent. I want somebody for the future. And the player that we've been linked to by a couple of different journalists today is a player called Javi Guerrera. Now, I'll be honest with you, before I heard this story, I had never heard of this player before in my life. I don't watch a lot of La Liga football. He's 20 years of age. He's a CDM and he looks like the real deal. I've been watching a load of clips on him over the last 24 hours or so since this story's come out. He's literally 20 years of age. Main position is a CDM. He's come through the Valencia, what's it called? Is it I can't remember what the Valencia Youth Academy's called. But anyway, he's come through the Valencia Youth Academy. It's had a really, really good start to their season there. He plays every single game for Valencia in La Liga. Had a really, really solid start. He looks like a great person to come in and replace Scott McTominay or Donny van de Beek or both of them. How much money it's going to cost to get him in? Obviously, we don't know at this point. I would say somewhere between 10 and 20 million pounds is my prediction. He's very fast. He's very good defensively, very strong. And as I said, only 20 years of age. So definitely somebody that I think Manchester United will be looking at. Somebody to keep an eye on. Obviously, this will be for January if Scott McTominay goes and Donny van de Beek goes, which, you know what, I do expect both of those players to leave in January. I know we're a little way off the January transfer window, but I think Manchester United will be quite busy personally, because I think obviously Donny van de Beek is completely wasted at Manchester United. Scott McTominay is clearly not good enough. Hannibal's better than him. Dan Gore is arguably better than him. He definitely needs to go. Maguire, I would probably say, will stay until the end of the season. And you know what? I don't really have a massive issue with Maguire staying, because Martinez seems to be getting quite a few injuries now. Rafael Varane's been getting injuries ever since we got him. That's our two main centre-backs who are, I don't want to go as far as saying injury prone. Varane's definitely injury prone. But Martinez has got this injury on his foot that seems to keep coming back. So maybe that does turn into something like a regular occurrence. Obviously, we've still got Victor Lindelof. We've still got Johnny Evans. But the other option at centre-back was Luke Shaw, isn't it? And he's injured. So we're very close again to being in a bad situation in the centre-back position. And if we are going into the later rounds of the League Cup, the FA Cup, potentially going into the knockout stages of the Champions League, I think we do need Harry Maguire until the end of the season. Whereas Scott McTominay and Donny van de Beek are literally pointless. There's no point even having them whatsoever. Get rid of both of them. I honestly think we have better players in our youth academy than Scott McTominay or Donny van de Beek, personally. But let me know what you think about that. Who do you think should leave the club in January, and what do you think is a realistic outgoings for the January transfer window? Let me know in the comment section below. And everybody who's just joined as well, please do make sure to smash a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. It doesn't cost any money. It's completely free. It really helps. Mila says, I agree, we need to get rid of some players in January. I'd get rid of Donny van de Beek, Sancho and McTominay. I think that's realistic, I do. I would say that maybe Donny van de Beek and Sancho would go out on loan, and maybe you get some money for McTominay, sell McTominay and then bring in a replacement. I would be happy with that. Maybe you try and get a striker on loan as well. I think that could be good, because obviously if Rasmus Højlund gets injured, then we're just going to be relying on Antony Martial. Antony Martial scored a great goal against Crystal Palace though, so fair play to Antony Martial. I think a fully fit Antony Martial on form is a good player to have in your squad. It's just the big question mark around Antony Martial is whether he can stay fit. And that's the bit which will kind of determine how far I think we go in some of these competitions, because we need to be able to rotate. So Ricardo says that guy, Xavi Guerrero, is just a physical presence but doesn't have any out-of-this-world skills. He is a Maguire-ish player. Federico Redondo from Argentina Juniors is an amazing 20-year-old CDM. Fair enough. Mila says, but the squad starts to look like a team. We have good players on every position. I like how we look on paper. Yeah, for sure. We have a good squad on paper. We definitely do. Saf says, get rid of Maguire, get a proper centre-back. Yeah, I think maybe that'll be one for the summer. It all depends on Harry Maguire, doesn't it? Because obviously the Euros are coming up this summer. Oh, not this. Yeah, next summer. If Harry Maguire's not getting game time, then I imagine he'll probably try and force a move in January. He's probably got more game time than any of us would have expected so far, though, if you actually think about it. He's played quite a lot of minutes already. I mean, how many minutes has he played? Has he played more minutes than Varane? I might be way off with this one. Let me just check. I feel like I've seen quite a lot of Harry Maguire this season already, and not very much of Raphael Varane, mainly just because he's been injured a lot, hasn't he? So Harry Maguire this season so far, he's played 113 minutes, so not very much. I don't know where I got that idea from. So he's played 113 minutes so far this season. Raphael Varane has played 297. Okay, so way more. What about Martinez? It's still like, it's not that much though, is it? Difference. Harry Maguire's played half the amount of minutes as Raphael Varane. Yeah, I mean, Martinez has played a lot of minutes. What about Lindelof? I'm just trying to work out here if I'm thinking from Harry Maguire's perspective, is he going to be satisfied with 113 minutes in 5 games? Yeah, I mean, it's not very much. Lindelof's played, do you know what's funny, right? Lindelof has played the most minutes at centre-back out of any of our centre-backs this season. He's played 400 minutes. The second most is Martinez. The third most is Varane. And then last is Harry Maguire with around 100 minutes so far in 5 games. So it's not very much, is it? It's about 20 minutes a game. How much has Johnny Evans played? Sorry, sorry, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent here. I just think it's quite interesting to have a look. Yeah, so Johnny Evans has played more minutes than Harry Maguire officially. Johnny Evans has played 124 minutes so far this season. Harry Maguire's played 111. So that kind of sums it up for me. If I'm Harry Maguire, I'm sat on the bench thinking, I'm literally getting less minutes than Johnny Evans. And Johnny Evans is 35 and is as a free agent. I cost £80 million. I'm starting for England at the Euros if I get game time, and I'm literally playing less the minutes than Johnny Evans. I mean, that's pretty mad, isn't it? But yeah, let's see what else people are saying in the live chat. Sujo says Lindelof is a great backup option. Yeah, I really, really like Victor Lindelof. I've got no issue with him whatsoever. Mila says, I think on paper we have a much better team than Arsenal. We have good subs in every position and youngsters with quality. Yeah, I hear you, mate. I'm not sure. I would say it's probably about level, to be honest. I think if we had a fully fit team, we can go... I think if we had a fully fit team, we can go and challenge Arsenal, definitely. Jarvis says Al Etifak have picked up unknown youngster Jesse Lingard. Yeah, I just saw that. So Jesse Lingard has just joined Steven Gerrard in Saudi Arabia at Al Etifak. But yeah, let me know about this midfielder. Anybody else who's watched anything about him? Xavi Guerrero Moreno, his name is. 6'2", 20 years of age. He looks good to me, but obviously I've only watched him on like clips and stuff. So if there's people who watch the league regularly, maybe some of you watch Valencia, do let me know because I'm always interested to see what you guys have to say. Right, let's move over to this story really, really quickly. So Fabrizio Romano has been talking a little bit about Hannibal Mejbri, and apparently Manchester United were close to loaning out Hannibal to Sevilla in the summer, but apparently Erik ten Hag blocked the deal and said no, that he wanted to keep him. I mean, that was the correct decision, wasn't it? I would say that he's been our breakthrough player so far this season. I would say him, Reguilon, I'd say those two have been our best players, and Casemiro, Reguilon, and Hannibal Mejbri, I would say have been our 3 best players so far this season, in my opinion. But let me know who you think our best players have been this so far. And then to follow on that story, Fabrizio goes on to say that Manchester United now plan to offer Hannibal a new contract as talks are expected to start soon. So that's really, really positive. I think that's definitely the correct decision. As I said to you guys on the show a couple of days ago, Hannibal's only on £5,000 a week, which I know for me or you is a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things, to only be on £5,000 at Manchester United is quite a small amount of money, isn't it? Scott says, do you not think the amount of money we get for players is ridiculous? I think the players we just sold are worth a lot more. I mean, 100%. I mean, getting £7 or £8 million for Fred is an absolute joke when you think about it now. The fact that we only got £7 or £8 million for Fred, yet we kept Scott McTominay. Like, Scott McTominay's worth £7 or £8 million if Fred's worth £7 or £8 million. Do you know what I mean? Fred is a far better player than Scott McTominay, and for some reason we let him go and kept Scott McTominay. Very, very strange. Keith says Dalot has gone way under the radar. Yeah, to be fair, that's another player who's done really well. Dalot's been really, really good this season, so fair play to Dalot. He's really, really taken a big step up, because last season and the season before, I thought Dalot was a little bit average, if I'm going to be honest. But I think this season he's taken that step into a Manchester United player. He's really owning that right back position. Maybe it is a mental thing, you know. Maybe it is because he knows that he doesn't have the competition of Wan-Bissaka, and that every game he's probably going to be benched and all the rest of it. He knows that he's able to cement his position in that right back, just like Wan-Bissaka did when Dalot was injured. Remember, Wan-Bissaka was as good as gone from Manchester United. Dalot gets injured in January, I think it was. Wan-Bissaka starts every single game, and then ever since then, he's been our best right back to most of us. So yeah, I think it has actually done him quite well. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat. Somebody says, did you just call Lingard a youngster? Yeah, I was reading out someone else's comment. They were obviously having a joke saying that Al Ettifaq have picked up the unknown youngster Jesse Lingard. Lingard's a young prospect with a great future. They're obviously just having a bit of a laugh. Right, let's move on to the next bit of the show, though. I am going to set up a poll in a minute as well. In fact, I'll do the poll now. Right, I'm going to set up a poll quickly. Player of the season so far. So we're going to do Reguilon. We're going to do Hannibal. We're going to do Dalot. Who else? Casemiro. Right, those are my 4 top players of the year so far. So get involved in the poll, everyone. The question is, who is the player of the season so far? I know we're only 6 games into the season. If you have a different name that you don't think's on the list, please let me know in the live chat or in the comment section. Those are just my 4 predictions, or like my 4 picks. If you have somebody else you think I've missed out on, please do let me know in the comment section or the live chat. I'm going with Casemiro as number 1, Reguilon as number 2, Hannibal as number 3, and Diogo Dalot as number 4. I think all 4 of those players have really, really done well. Obviously, Casemiro we expect to do well, but Reguilon, Hannibal, and Dalot, I didn't really have much expectations for any of those players this season, and they've really, really stood up. So, yeah, let me know. It seems to be quite a mixed voting so far. Pete says, I can't believe we could have got 30 million for McTominay. I mean, that's probably the biggest mess up in Manchester United's transfer history. The fact that we had a deal on the table for 30 million for McTominay and 30 million for Harry Maguire. Imagine if we'd have brought in a Jean-Claire Todibo and brought in another midfielder. Somebody says, why not Bruno Fernandes? I don't know. I don't think Bruno's been bad this season. Obviously, he scored a really nice goal, didn't he, against Burnley. I like Bruno Fernandes. Somebody's saying Varane for me. Obviously, if there's people who I've missed out, let me know in the comment section. You know, those are just my opinions on people who've impressed me. I expect Bruno to do well, you know? Like, Bruno is one of our best players. I expect him to play well every match, because that's what we expect from him. Whereas, did anybody expect Reguilon to be as good as he has been? Did anybody expect Hannibal to be playing 2 games in a row? I didn't. Did anybody expect Diogo Dalot to be starting every single game for Manchester United? Obviously because of injury, but I didn't either. Somebody says, which position should we add in January? I think we need another striker really badly, and I think we need another midfielder, because I think Donny van der Beek, as I said, and Scott McTominay are just, like, they're pretty much as good as gone. Like, Donny came on against Crystal Palace and he just has 0 impact on the game. And I know that it's almost impossible to have an impact on a game when you're only playing 10 minutes every month, you know? And I get that. And Donny van der Beek has never had a consistent run in the team, ever. So I do feel a little bit bad for him in that sense, but he's clearly not gonna get that at Manchester United, is he? And he needs to move on. Luma says, Kieran, does it not worry you that Reguilon and Amrabat are loan players and not permanent? It doesn't really, to be honest, mate, because obviously, remember with Amrabat, we have an option to buy him in the summer. So we can buy Amrabat in the summer. We've already got that contract ready to do. So Amrabat is effectively our player if we want him. Reguilon, I don't think it worries me as such, because I think that he's been good. But I would say there still are better options out there. It all depends on who our new owners are. It depends on what our budget is. If we've still got the Glazers next summer, I would say, yeah, just try and keep Reguilon, because that's probably a realistic signing. 10 to 20 million to Tottenham, they'll probably accept that. But yeah, I'm not too bothered about Reguilon in the sense that I would like him to stay, but we're only 5 games into the season. And obviously with Amrabat, we have that security that if he continues doing well, he's only played 1 game, remember. If Amrabat continues doing well, he doesn't get injured and all the rest of it, we have the option to keep him beyond, the end of this season. For I think it's about 8 million. I think we've paid 8 million already, and we've got to pay them another 16 or 17 million, taking it up to 25 million in total. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. Let's see what else people are saying. Keith says, I agree that we need a new midfielder and a striker, but I can't see us buying anyone under this current ownership. I agree with you, mate, but I honestly do think that we'll have new owners by January. I genuinely believe that. I don't know who it's going to be, though, just to be very, very clear. Obviously, you know that I want Sheikh Jassim. That's my preference. But I obviously I don't know. I don't have a magic ball and can't tell you who's going to be the owner. If Sir Jim Ratcliffe comes in, I will say this, actually. Let me just say this. I think that even if Sir Jim Ratcliffe comes in, we'll still spend money because he's going to want to win over the fans. He's going to want to win over the doubters. Those of you in the chat today who are like, I don't want Sir Jim Ratcliffe. If he comes in and spends a load of money, where that money's come from, whether he takes out debt and all the rest of it, we don't know. I think it will win over some of the fan base. I don't think it will win over me personally because I don't think it's as black and white as us needing to spend more money on players to compete. We need to get a proper director of football, CEO, proper scouts. We need a new stadium. We need to improve Carrington. There's so many things that need to happen behind the scenes that are going to cost so much money that bringing in like a new left back in January, I'm not going to be like, oh, great, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's the man. He's brought in a new left back. Like, that's not going to be me. I'm going to look at it from the big picture. I spent many, many years as a Manchester United fan of just purely looking at players that were being brought in. I remember when we signed Lukaku, like I was absolutely buzzing. I was so happy. I was like, we're going to win the Premier League. But it's not always as black and white as that, is it? With things like that. You have to look at the whole picture. And for me, it's not just about transfers. It's about everything else that surrounds it. Somebody says, what about Lindelof for player of the season so far? Yeah, I mean, again, obviously, you can only, just to be very clear, right, in this poll, you can only select 4 names. So when I set it up, I could only pick 4 people. But other mentions definitely should be Lindelof. He's been unbelievable this season. And as I said a couple of minutes ago, out of every centre-back at Manchester United this season, Lindelof has played the most minutes so far. So fair play to Lindelof. And he hasn't put a foot wrong yet for me. So big ups to Lindelof. Lumen says, Kieran, the other problem with Sir Jim Ratcliffe is his age. Yes, it's a really good point. I'd never really thought about it. And I said it yesterday on stream, almost by accident. Sir Jim Ratcliffe is just about to turn 71, okay? Which I know isn't that old. It's not, it's not like he's 95, but if he wants to keep the club until he dies, when he dies, the club is owned by Ineos, right? It's just Sir Jim Ratcliffe is one of the owners of Ineos. Please remember that, okay? It's not Sir Jim Ratcliffe buying Manchester United. He's not using his personal wealth to buy Manchester United. It's his company, Ineos. And he doesn't own Ineos 100%. Let me have a look at Ineos owners. It's not just Sir Jim Ratcliffe. So there's 3 different people. There's Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Andy Curry, and John Rees. So there's 3 owners of Ineos. So when we keep saying, oh, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's buying Manchester United, that's not correct. Ineos are buying Manchester United, and Ineos is owned by 3 individuals: Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Andy Curry, and John Rees. And they also have thousands and and they obviously have, stakeholders and all the rest of it. They have people who have money invested in the company who are expecting returns on investment. So what happens when Sir Jim Ratcliffe at some point, obviously I'm not wishing death upon anybody, just to be very, very clear. What happens when Sir Jim Ratcliffe dies and then it's like one of these other people, like Andy Curry, John Rees, one of those people who are then kind of heading up Manchester United's operations. Like, I don't know, that does concern me a little bit, whereas obviously Sheikh Jassim, I think he's 40, very, very young, probably, but yeah, I don't know. I thought about this for the first time yesterday, and it's a little bit of a... So Barman says, Kieran, Ratcliffe's age is exactly the main issue. His son, I believe, is not a football fan either. But the thing is, Barman, as well, I think this is where people get confused about Sir Jim Ratcliffe. If Sir Jim Ratcliffe dies, the club won't go to his son. The club is owned by Ineos. Just remember this, please, everybody, okay? The 2 people who are bidding for Manchester United, forget about Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Sir Jim Ratcliffe is not bidding for Manchester United. It's Ineos, where Sir Jim Ratcliffe owns some of Ineos with 2 other people. Ineos are buying Manchester United, or Sheikh Jassim's buying Manchester United. Sir Jim Ratcliffe is just the face of the Ineos bid, okay? He's the Manchester United fan who is the face of the Ineos bid, but he doesn't own Ineos 100%. There's other people who own it as well. So that's the thing we have to be very, very careful about here. Malk says Sir Jim Ratcliffe's eldest son, George, will take over Ineos. Okay, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so there is other people involved in it. There's other owners. Richie says it's not Sheikh Jassim either. He can't afford it. Qatar is state ownership. Facts. I'm not saying that we shouldn't sell to Ineos because it's not Sir Jim Ratcliffe. I was just purely making the point, as somebody else did in the chat. Sir Jim Ratcliffe is the face of the bid, but he's in his 70s now. What happens when he dies? I don't know. That's a question. It's a question that maybe will be answered if he gets the club, and I'll happily listen to the answer of it. I'm just asking the question to the chat to see what everyone else thinks, because I'm sure people have opinions. Barman says, "Are you saying that putting Ratcliffe in front is a PR prank?" Well, I mean, it's a pretty obvious move from Ineos, isn't it? They have one of their owners who's a boyhood Manchester United fan, is from Manchester, has got this all, come from nothing to riches mentality. Put him as the face. Imagine if we were all sat here, right, saying, John Rees is buying Manchester United. You'd be all sat there saying, who the hell is John Rees? But because it's John Rees is one of the other owners of Ineos. Or if I sat here saying today, I could do a video today saying, Andy Curry set to restructure his bid for Manchester United. And you'd all come on the stream and be like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Who is Andy Curry? Well, he's in the same position as Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He's one of the owners of Ineos, So it's been done very cleverly, and it makes sense. They're playing on the whole heartstrings of the people from Manchester who are like, we want somebody from Manchester. We want the great, the British owner and all the rest of it. That whole mindset, which I think some people do have. I'm not in that mindset personally. I want what's best for Manchester United. I don't really, it doesn't really make a difference to me whether he was born a stone's throw from Old Trafford, if he's not going to be able to offer what I think we need for the club. But let me know what you guys think of that one. Yeah, MUFC Realist, hope you're doing well, mate. He says, lots of noise and nothing Ineos speculations. If you listen to Davis, Helios with speculations, restructuring the deal, but legal lawsuit from minority of Class A holders still looms. Exactly that. And Al says, this is a great point as well. Al says, Ineos is a profit-making business. They will want a return. Of course, as I just said, they have shareholders. They have board meetings. They have targets to hit. This money is an investment. It's not his little project to go and have a bit of fun with. It's an investment, and you have to remember that. An investment means return on investment. It means making money. It means profit. No massive company like Ineos would just do this for fun. They wouldn't, especially if there's all these other owners, all these other shareholders. Whereas for me, whether you like the Qatar model or not, it does just feel a little bit like that they are just throwing money into the wind with it. That's how it feels like to me. That's what they did with Man City, and they have turned it into a profitable business. And in the long run, they will make Manchester United profitable. Yeah, but I'm going to wrap the show up here, guys. I went on for a little bit longer than I was expecting, but obviously, as always, I'm more than happy to let the chat narrate and take the direction of the show. I've got no issue with that whatsoever. I love speaking to you guys, so I've had a really, really good show this morning. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined me today. Please do make sure to smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. This has been Daily Red Devil. I've been Kieran, and I'll catch you all later.